What made your sweet grandpa snap in front of the whole family? My grandfather, whom we all called Gramps, was the cornerstone of our family. A retired firefighter with calloused hands and the softest heart. For 54 years, he and Grandma Ellie were inseparable, finishing each other's sentences and dancing in the kitchen to Sinatra. 8 weeks after Grandma Ellie's funeral, we gathered for my brother's graduation party. Gramps insisted on hosting, said the house needed celebrating again. He seemed to be healing, still wearing his wedding ring, still setting out 2 coffee mugs each morning before catching himself. My uncle brought his new girlfriend, Diana, child psychologist, best-selling author, confident and polished. During the barbecue, Diana dominated conversation with her professional insights. Children are remarkably resilient after loss, Diana announced, unlike the elderly, who often become permanently diminished. She smiled sympathetically at Gramps. It's why I recommend families prepare children early for the inevitability of losing their grandparents. The attachment shouldn't become too central to their identity. I watched Gramps' spatula pause over the grill. The sizzling of burgers suddenly seemed too loud in the silence that followed. Diminished? Gramps repeated, his voice unnaturally quiet. Is that what you think happens to us old folks when we lose someone? Diana leaned forward. It's well documented. After losing a spouse late in life, cognitive decline accelerates. Many never regain their former functionality. It's why we encourage families to make arrangements early for assisted living. The attachment to home becomes unhealthy nostalgia. Gramps carefully placed his spatula down. I noticed his hands, steady hands that had carried people from burning buildings, trembling slightly. Unhealthy nostalgia, he repeated. I see. He wiped his hands on his Kiss the Cook apron, a gift from Grandma Ellie. Would you like to know what I did yesterday, Diana? I replaced the water heater by myself. Day before that, I taught my great-grandson how to fish. Same spot where I taught his father. Same spot where Ellie once caught a bass bigger than anything I'd pulled in all day. Never let me forget it. Diana shifted uncomfortably. That's lovely, but grief research clearly shows I'm not finished, Gramps said, his voice suddenly carrying the authority that had once commanded emergency scenes. 3 days after Ellie died, the kitchen sink clogged. I fixed it and cried under that sink for an hour because she wasn't there to hand me tools. Then I got up and made dinner. I set the table for 1 instead of 2. That wasn't diminished, young lady. That was courage. He stepped away from the grill. Last week, I updated my will, drove myself to the lawyer's office, organized 50 years of documents, made decisions about everything I own, called the funeral home to pre-arrange things so my children won't have to guess what I want. Does that sound diminished to you? Ellie and I pulled a 6-year-old girl from a house fire in 1976. Found her hiding in a closet, clutching a teddy bear. That girl is a grandmother herself now. She called me last month, on the anniversary. Remembers Ellie's voice more than the fire. Gramps looked directly at Diana. You speak about the elderly as if we're already half gone, as if loss makes us less. Let me educate you on what happens when you've loved someone for 54 years and then had to learn to live without them. It's not diminishment, it's transformation. Every morning I wake up and choose to live fully with this hole in my life. I choose to carry Ellie with me without letting grief swallow me whole. That takes more strength than I ever needed running into burning buildings. He stopped in front of Diana. And those children you're so concerned about protecting, they need to see that. They need to know that love doesn't make you weaker, even when it breaks your heart, especially then. Gramps turned to my brother. Tommy, I'm sorry for interrupting your celebration, but I won't apologize for defending what your grandmother and I built, or for insisting on respect for people who've lived long enough to understand what loss really costs. Diana cleared her throat. Sir, I didn't mean to suggest, my father cut her off. The ones who've weathered the most storms are still standing when everyone else has run for shelter.